So connecting data and AI, the part that scares me, and I think scares a lot of people, is access to healthcare data and how some of the healthcare data could be, if you will, shifted to not the right hands. And at one point in time, China was accessing healthcare data from the United States. Now, having spent 3 years at a healthcare data company where we were managing Center for Medicare Medicaid Services data, is a very large amount of very valuable data. Your thoughts on data protection? Are we on the right track? Are we too regulated because of HIPAA? What should we do with healthcare data?
It feels like the regulation today is a little bit too far removed from the realities of how the data is being managed. There were a few blockchain companies that had really promising ways of storing the data so that it was stored in a way that if it were to be hacked, it would be almost impossible to compile an individual's profile, because the way that the data was stored was not in like a database with rows, but it was distributed. And then the end users would call the data in a very secure fashion, and then it would pull it all in. It's a very expensive way to manage data. We don't really have a cheap way of doing that yet. But assuming that becomes cheaper, we can solve a lot of the security risks. Unfortunately, where we are today is we are still kind of in, SQL, like grid-like databases, and that is the most cost-effective way of storing that information. But we have some great mathematicians here who can probably come up with very interesting ways of making that data dispersed as it lives in the cloud, and finding cheaper methods for calling that data back. So I'd love for you guys to come up with a solution.